Welcome to the best hour of their day podcast with your hosts, Jason Fernandez.
And me, Jason Ackerman. With more than 20 years in the business,
as both coaches and affiliate owners,
our passion is to help create world-class affiliates
and coaches by building
better boxes. Welcome to
the best hour of your day.
Welcome back to episode 4 of our 4-part series all about turning leads into lifers. You've heard us talk about leads. You've heard us talk about sales. You've heard us talk about client integration. Well, all that is good and great, but now it's where the rubber meets the road. Retention.
Retention. Independent variable most commonly associated with maximizing the rate of growth of the affiliate.
You hear that?
Write that down. Somebody read it back to me because I was not ready for that knowledge bomb. Go ahead and say that again slower.
No, it's just that when we look at what is the primary driver of a gym's overall success, it's retention. You need strong sales, right? You need a strong team, but retention makes everything else easier, right? If you focus on that, if you have raving fans, leveraging that is the strongest lever you could possibly have. If you want to run paid ads, if you want to do all the risky stuff, you can do it on the back of strong retention. And it's the number one variable when we look at successful gyms that we work with who are consistently hitting net 3, which means that your retention is strong. You're going to be successful, you know. And it's like the money thing, right? It's just like, hey, I need more. If I just had more money, so I was like, or you could budget better. More money is not going to solve your problem if you cannot budget, right? More clients are not going to solve your problem if you cannot adequately serve your current clientele.
What's the old expression? It's a lot less expensive to keep a client
than it is to get a new one.
Than it is to get a new one, right? And a lot of affiliates out there are just constantly chasing new ones rather than focusing on the 100 that they have. And the truth of the matter is, if you have 100, or maybe it's 150 or 200, you probably don't need much more. You just need to do a better job keeping those people happy, like we've said on multiple episodes now, raving fans.
Yeah, and churn is a thing, right? So there's no such thing as 100% retention. That's not real life.
People are going to move. People are going to
It's part of the game.
Yeah.
It's part of the game. So you just have to learn to manage it and learn how to decrease it. And what we would define as successful retention, if you want numbers, if you want some math here, is we would like to see 5% or less churn, right?
No.
You know, and depending on the size of the gym, that number can get pretty big. If you're at 300 members, like 5% is not a small. That's a number of cancellations every month that would make a lot of people throw up in their mouth. But that's going to be standard month over month.
Yeah.
So when we talk about retention, let's talk about where the issues begin to arise. Because something you said for quite some time is people don't leave your affiliate from a bad experience.
Right. They leave because they're indifferent. It's because they feel that they can either do it on their own, or which is do it cheaper. I could do this on my own at home, or I could go somewhere else and get it cheaper. And that's because they're not getting anything special. They're not feeling connected to, they're not getting a value from the coaching, and there's no expertise being transferred. We want it to be the type of exchange where what we are providing for them is priceless. It's not about the workouts, the programming. It should be the people, and it should be the value of the coaching experience, the dynamic I experienced in class that is irreplaceable. It's like, yeah, I could go do another program, I could do anything else, but it's this exchange, the way that I feel and the benefit and value that I get from these exchanges, that's priceless. And that's what we're shooting for.
You know, when we say that, people are like, oh no, I know people left from a bad experience. So let's define that a little bit. You know,
that happens. That is the overwhelming minority of people that have like a really bad experience.
If you looked around your box and looked at the list of people that left, it wasn't I got injured. It wasn't another member caused drama or a coach was rude to me.
It's I got busy.
Yeah, and whenever people say that, it's like they're not busy, and if they are, this is no longer the priority for them. But you're right. It's like the guy's doing it in their garage now, or the woman that's doing it at a Globo gym because they're offering, CrossFit Light. It's those things where I do not see the value anymore.
It's a combination of they're unhappy with primarily one of two things, or they're indifferent about one of two things. The product, which is, hey, are these workouts fun? Are they getting me the result? And the service. Are the coaches helping me progress at an appropriate rate? That's the thing about the technique lectures, like safety, efficacy, and efficiency, which is like, well, if you take those bottom two, the efficacy is like, is the product, is the programming moving them down the road? And is the coach part of that, the efficacy of that, right? Or the efficiency of that? Or like, are they getting there in a timely fashion? And are they having a good time?
Yeah, and then of course,
right, like that's it.
The safety is there too, right? Like they're not getting hurt, but
Right.
the joke we make in that lecture is, if you had a gym full of 100 people and they all made it to the CrossFit Games, but out of those 100 that made it to the CrossFit Games, 99 died, you'd probably not have a successful gym.
Right.
Right. And if you had 100 people at your gym and there was 0 injuries, but no one got a pull-up, they wouldn't be successful either. We need that balance of both. So we understand what retention is. Let's talk about how to maximize, how to improve it.
I think you have to look at there's kind of the quantitative and the qualitative again, right? So the qualitative is like, what is the client's experience? What is their interaction with the staff? And then there's the quantitative, which is, are they getting what they came there for, right? So that's, if you look at outcomes, that would be PRs, right? Are their numbers moving in the right direction? Is their body weight on the scale coming down? What does their in-body metrics look like, or whatever kind of body fat measurements you're doing, and then, but are they having a good time? A good time is pretty well indicated by what is their frequency of attendance.
Right.
So when you look at those things, this is how you start to quantify that. And here's the numbers, but then how do you layer that kind of like customer service piece on top of it, which is like you take that information and you use it in a personal way, and which we've talked about already. So.
Right. If someone's having a good time, they're not like, all right, see you next month. They're like, I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Can't wait to do that again.
And I'll tell you too, I think one thing that often doesn't get brought up enough is just are people seeing the results, as in visually, the aesthetic. Like, you can say what you want. I understand that that's not obviously the intention of CrossFit, but the side effect of doing it well is that you look great naked. And if people are looking better while feeling better, while having fun, and those needles are moving in the right direction, then no one's going anywhere. Like if people are getting compliments where they're like, dude, you freaking jacked, man, they're like, yeah, I'm going to keep this going. Let's keep it rolling because it's working, right? And it's when someone's going somewhere, they feel indifferent about if it's the coaching, one thing, but it's also the progress. If someone's been going to your gym for 2 years and they're not making visual progress anymore, they get discouraged because they're like, well, the real reason why I'm here for many people is I want to feel good about myself. And yes, that means I'm changing my relationship and understanding of fitness, nutrition, well-being. That's a long game for us with people to to change that, right? To evolve that over time. But at the end of the day, if someone looks the part too, they're fired up about it, and it keeps them excited. By the way, it's also how all the conversations start for referrals, is when someone looks awesome. They're like, damn, Susie, like I haven't seen you in 6 months. You look fantastic. What have you been doing? There's your opener.
Yeah, CrossFit Rice.
I didn't have to do anything,
It speaks for itself.
Exactly.
That's what gets people in the door.
Exactly.
So when you talk about qualitative, quantitative, let's dig in a little bit. Talk to me about, we talked qualitative. What do you mean by quantitative?
Quantitative is that we're looking at the numbers. Like, what does the data tell us, right? So this is the whole reason we are working with most of the software companies right now to give gym owners like better metrics to look at, meaning what are the lead metrics I can look at inside of the gym that would predict all the things that I want to happen, which is like my membership grows, we're making more revenue, like all the things that like inherently most people in the outside world would define as a successful business. Attendance is one of them, and I just track as many metrics that are related to attendance as possible, right? Like, what is their total attendance? What is their attendance on a monthly basis? Like, how many times are they showing up, right? What is the total percentage of your members, who attend on average per week, right? All of these things will let you know if what I'm doing is working, because we're all romantic about our thing, right? Everybody thinks we have the best coaches and the best community. Okay, well, if you do have the best coaches and the best community, you're going to have a really high percentage of attendance on a weekly basis. If you don't, then it just feels good to say. But this is how we can counteract our romance with the business, because the romance makes you illogical. But if I look at that, I'm like, man, it makes me question it. I'm like, why is attendance down this week? If I know we typically average 450 or maybe it's 350, whatever your number is week over week, and I'm like, why is it at 260? Like, what happened that we had 100 spots drop off? And maybe there is no answer. Be like, oh, we were closed for 2 days. Or we're like, nope, we were open for a full week. And we look at the programming, and I'm like, oh, like we played around with some programming, and like clearly people didn't like it. Hey, rip it out. Go back to what you were doing. So I think you start looking at as many things that are attendance related as possible. And then there's the things that are outside of the training, right? So like what kind of social events do you have? What kind of educational events do you have? Track those, right? Like, do you have better attendance leading up to them? Do you have better attendance after them? Do you get more referrals post events of any type, right? These are all the things that I start to look at. And the more you dig into that information, the more you find out there is almost nothing that you cannot track inside of the gym. Now, you start with the simple stuff. You don't start tracking everything at first. We start with the simple stuff like, hey, monthly attendance, something simple like Committed Club. What percentage of your member base is showing up, whatever your number is, 14 to 16 times a month? We know those people are lifers, so we start to track that. Once you can track that on autopilot and do that in your sleep, add another metric in there. And the more metrics you have, the more complete picture that you can create.
Yeah, and so I want to speak to something you said. So the Committed Club, we've talked about it many times. I think I'm sure we have an episode or two on the Committed Club explaining it. The reason why we do it, what makes it so special, is that we are making the focus around showing up consistently. Because we know that if you just show up 4 or 5 days a week consistently for a long enough period of time, you're going to get results, and that's performance improvement, visual, aesthetic improvement. You're going to make more friends. We're going to have a better relationship because we see each other more often. All the things are better because that is the best metric to track is the consistency of the attendance. So by gamifying this, we are making this the most important thing. Yes, we're going to celebrate your PRs, but your Committed Club creates a repeating mechanism to draw attention every month. And within that month, you can celebrate the wins along the way. It's like a little horse race at the carnival where you're like, oh, Susie's up. Oh, my God, 3rd month in a row. And oh, she's only 4 away. You make it fun and exciting, and you bring the attention to the main thing that drives everything, and that is the consistency of attendance. So talking about retention, making that the main theme inside of your gym and not about who's strongest and has the best times. That's cool, track it also, but make the most important one the attendance. It will change the whole conversation within your community and within your facility. And by the way, going back 2 episodes, when we talk about selling, we are planting the seed where we're like, hey, the most important thing, the thing that really sets us apart is that we're going to help you get consistent because we have learned out of all the hundreds or thousands of people that we've trained over however many years, that the most important thing, the thing that's going to get you what you are here for is showing up consistently day after day. Come in 3 days a week at least. If you're having a hard day, that's okay. Try to get in anyway. We'll take care of the rest. All you got to do is show up. We'll make it fun. If you fall off track, we'll get you back in here. But make that the main thing. And now when you gamify it after the fact, you are reinforcing the habit that creates the outcome.
Yeah, and you're sprinkling in. It's all about that connection.
Yeah, and
that
it's
human
fun.
Connection.
Yeah.
And something you said that often gets overlooked is the Committed Club isn't only about results, but we all have our members that become closer friends. And it's
behavior.
Well, it's obvious too that, I see you more. If I see you
100%.
more, we're gonna know more about each other. We're gonna have a deeper connection, and you're gonna wind up staying longer. Because we talked about integration, day 0 through 180, but
Yep.
the goal is 180 to 3,650 or whatever, 10 years. So it's all about what we do now on a daily basis.
Yeah, and if you're so there's kind of those lead metrics. Attendance is a lead metric that would be a predictor of other things like average client value. What is your length of engagement with all of your clients? But like, if you don't look at the things that would facilitate that,
Right.
then those numbers will never be what you want them to be because those are all long game metrics anyway. I want to mess with the metrics that I can mess with now. Right? I can't increase average client value next week. I cannot increase length of engagement really in any sort of significant way in the next 30 to 60 days. I can increase retention and I can increase attendance tomorrow. But I have full control of that throttle and what I do and how I promote it and how exciting I make it, which then will impact those other numbers and I don't have to worry about them as much.
It's the input to those
correct.
metrics.
It's the precursor. It's the precursor to the other things, which is like, hey, if you want this, you need to work on that. You work on those big metrics indirectly. What you work on directly is what's going on every single day inside the walls, right? Did you reach out? Did you run that PR report last week? And did you reach out to every single one of those people and hit them with a message? Be like, yo, great job. Like, I know you've been trying to hit that deadlift PR for 2 years and you finally did it. Like,
those
you're a
little
stud.
things are
those
so
little
invaluable.
things, dude. Like stuff like that. We were at when Nate and I were at Push and Weight. We were there. Tyler gave she was like an older lady. She was probably late 50s, maybe early 60s. Sorry if you're younger. They presented her with a patch. It was like her 250th workout. And I'm like, that's retention right there, dude. Like celebrating that lady's consistency, coming in here. She's got this patch that she like really wanted. And I'm like, and I told him afterwards, I was like, that was good, dude.
Well,
like that was
two people are impacted by that, right? She's like, well, now I got to get to 500. And everyone that's under 250 is like, I want
my
that.
patch. Yeah.
Right? So it's her and everybody else. You do those types of things in front of class, no different than when we talk about referrals, right? Give out that thank you. Hey, Fern, you brought in Marcus. Thank you so much. Here's a card. Here's money in it for you. Doing a lot of that stuff publicly is so important.
Well, I think if you just view this entire conversation, if I move past fitness, right, everything changes. If I move past the workout and I move past the progression that we're going to use and how everybody gets PRs, and I'm like, what do people really want? They want connection and they want to feel good about themselves. And I'm like,
And they want to have a good time.
they want to have a good time, right? Like, just do those things, right? And a lot of that has nothing to do with working out.
Totally.
Well, Glassman used to say, if someone's leaving your gym, it's because the box down the road is having more fun.
Right. Affiliate owners, if you want to grow revenue, what you need to understand is impact first. Offering the best classes and changing people's lives is how you get the revenue that you are searching for inside of the affiliate. And that starts with running fantastic classes here inside of the box. If that is something that you are looking for, we've got world-class coaches that are going to help you do that and help you run a better box. Everything from the coaching on the floor to the systems on the back end, we're going to cover it all. Book a call. We'll see you guys on the inside.
So that goes to the next point. So the next thing, so we covered retention, we covered attendance and all things around that. The next one is going to be the fun layer. This is the workouts. The workshops. It's the seminars, the parties, the fundraisers, the making improvements. And we have a system that we teach inside of Affiliate U on how to plan this out, creating an annual calendar. But at the end of the day, what you have to look at is, what are the things that people value beyond the core membership, beyond the core service, which we haven't even talked about yet? But what are the other things? And different people care about different things. And you have a natural bias as to what you tend to value. So maybe you're more of a party person, a social person. So you're going to throw parties and do all the things, and you're going to keep those people's perceived value cup fuller than the people who are like, I don't really care about the social stuff. I'm here for the workout or the training related stuff. So I want to, where are the workshops? I want a muscle up clinic. Now you're leaving those people out. Or maybe it's the people who are like, I just like a nice facility. I want to see new gadgets, new things. There's different things different people care about, and you need to address them all consistently and intentionally. And what that does is it rounds out, it's not just a program anymore. Now they're getting the itch scratched on the thing that puts it over the top for them. So I'm consistent, I'm getting results. That's to get to the minimum requirement. That's like a restaurant bringing you what you ordered on time and it's not shit.
It's the expectation.
Right. I'm exceeding the expectation at this point. And so adding in those additional layers and doing them consistently and intentionally, as in, don't just, like when I say training related thing, I'm not talking about, hey, on Friday we're going to hang out, we're going to work on muscle ups after class. We're doing the muscle up clinic and it's going to be so good you would have expected to pay for it. You can charge for it too, but the point is that you make it really, really good. So you knock that person who cares about that thing's socks off. For a social person, knock their socks off. Don't just say, oh yeah, a few of us are going to hang out and drink beers or do whatever. It's, we're going bowling, I'm hosting a thing, it's a whole thing, there's going to be prizes and theme. Yeah. So that they show up and they're like, dope party, and I'm a party person. We're trying to exceed, we're trying to over deliver to the people who care about the thing. And when you address all the different categories of people, now you are really amping up that retention because you are going beyond the minimum for all the different subgroups inside of your facility.
What what's cool about that is, so typically when we teach people to do that, we're like, hey, you got to throw darts at the board, and you got to like just put them on the calendar somewhere. Once you run them, then you go back and you look at them. So if you go back to the previous episode, we're like, hey, you're going to track these numbers. Well, you're going to track these events too. And you're going to look at your calendar from the previous year, and you're going to match up, hey, we had this event here, revenue was great this month, there's a little dip here, and you start moving all of these things around strategically based on historical data that you have. And be like, oh, okay, well, that's typically like not one of our better months. I'm like, let's take this event here that crushes, move it over here, so that now this month is not a low month anymore. Because I have 5 years of historical data. I'll be like, August sucks, like whatever. I'm like, okay, well, don't just let it suck. Do something about it, right? Move it over, and now I can be more strategic about how I'm going about putting those things on the calendar, that it's all based on retention, because I know people want those things. I just need to move over here so that it's both beneficial for them and it's beneficial for me. It's the win-win is what we're looking for.
Well, and what you're continuing to remind everyone is no different than your training. The data matters, and the data, by knowing it, can be maneuvered to improve things.
Yeah, it gives us the information to make more educated decisions, and you can become more strategic in what you're doing, and rather than just like, I feel like we need another social event. It's been a while since we've done one. You're able to be really intentional about all of that, and then utilize it to help combat those tougher seasons for you, whether it's because of weather, whether it's because of like, we have a lot of families we deal with and it's back to school and they're all too busy. Well, then September or August, when that season happens, is when I'm going to throw the thing that those people like the most, so that those people don't go anywhere, and I keep them engaged, and then voila, August doesn't suck anymore.
Right. And I think I was listening to, I forget where I was listening to this recently, and the concept, I was like, oh, that makes a ton of sense. So when we're talking about tracking and putting all these events on, what most often happens is they're like, I should do that. And they're just like, we're going to do it. Right. So, and the concept here is like switches versus dials. So typically CrossFit affiliate owners, it's either on or it's off. Like there's nothing in between those two things, versus just get it up, get an MVP, get a minimal viable product of that thing on, right? And then run it consistently, right? So now it's never off. I just turn it up one notch, and then I take this one from 0 to 1. I'm like, okay, now this one's on as well. And you start stacking all of these together, whether it's I'm going to be running committed club, or I want to throw a holiday party, or I want to throw in a training. I'm like, do one at a time. Get really good at it. And now I just dial that one up a little bit. And I'm like, great, now I need to get another one of these dials turned up to 3 now. I'm like, which one is it? But they never come off. And what a lot of gym owners do is we're reactive, and I'm like, all right, we did it, and then we forget about it, and now the switch goes off, and I have to spin it up all over again, and the amount of energy that it requires to start that thing from scratch every single time, number one, is draining. Number two, does not get the long-term results that I'm looking for, because it's super sporadic now, right? Think about like, what's the number one thing you tell your clients for success? Or like, consistency. And I'm like, it's the same for you as an affiliate owner. Like, be consistent. Like, people recognize inconsistency, whether you think they do or not.
Yeah. All right, you guys ready for it?
Let's hear it.
The biggest one of them all.
Do it.
How about your service? Make your service better.
Oh, I got a text recently from somebody. It's like, hey, what's the number one thing you guys track for retention? I'm like, I was like, I'm mad that you're asking me this, but it's the class. It's the class. Run a good class. It is again, going back to the restaurant. It's like, it's no different to be like, hey, what's the most successful thing you could do for a restaurant? I'm like, probably have good food. Have good food, you've got a shot.
Yeah.
Right.
Start there.
Have a good class. Make your classes fun. And I think, and there's this, you have to do both. I think you should run a well-run class, and I think it should also be fun.
100%.
Right, it's technique and intensity. What do you want?
Yeah, both.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'll share this. So I know you guys have obviously been probably more boxes than I have, but I've been to many, many hundreds of boxes that I've gotten to drop in, experience the classes, the culture, the whole thing. And it's an incredible community that we're a part of. And I will tell you that once you've taken amazing classes and you've had the experience of an excellent class, not just in your little ecosystem or what you know, but the full range of what's possible, and you go experience that, and then you go travel around. If I gave a score of, let's say, 1 sucks, 10 is amazing, on average, of the 500 plus affiliates that I've dropped into, I would say we're at like a 3 or 4 compared to what I've experienced as possible. And that's not to dog on anyone, but that's just to tell you it can be a lot better. And I didn't realize I was guilty of the exact same thing. In my affiliate, I thought we were hot shit because we were really good for our area. And we were on the best classes. I had dropped into everyone's places numerous times. I'm like, we got this. And then I took a class from an amazing seminar staff coach. And I was just like, it was Denise in Austin. I went to Reebok CrossFit 1, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ. I'm like, what have I been doing? I'm like, we suck at this.
We're not even playing the same game.
Literally not the same game. And I went back to my box. I'm like, guys, we're starting over. Like, we trash it.
We suck.
And it just really opens your eyes. And because you don't know until you experience what's possible, right? Just like any food, right? You eat something special, and you're like, what have I been eating? Like, what is this garbage? And all that is just to say is that to look at your service and realize that, like, this is the thing. This is the main, most important thing. It's got to be a great class. It's on time. It's consistent, and it's got to be fun, right? And I've got to feel like I'm being coached in it. And this is not an episode about programming, and I am less plugged into it than you guys are. I have less opinions to share. I'm not a box owner myself anymore. But like for me, I think less is more in the class. Do less things. Don't do part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. I used to do it. My mistake too. But when you do less, you get more time to coach, more time to connect. AKA, I'm going to get more value as the client.
I think you're spot on here. But I also think sometimes, and we're guilty of this too, like we get a little too rigid in that mindset. It's like, it's okay to do strength plus Metcon.
Oh, I'm not saying never. I'm saying generally speaking.
Because again, that goes back to the product and service, right? Like if people want strength plus Metcon, I'm like, you should probably dial up that dish for them occasionally, right?
But do they want it because that's all they know, or do they want it because they think they need it, right? It's a lot of all of that. And education, connection helps you understand that.
It doesn't matter, right? Because if I give it to them in just enough volume that they're like, I'm good, right? But the rest of my classes are super dialed in from a coaching standpoint. So the strength with Metcon, I don't want to go off a tangent, but like when people want that over if you're running one, it's not because that programming is typically better. If I go in and I watch that class that they're doing one thing, it's typically not run very efficiently. There's a lot of standing around. There's a lot of dead time. It's just, and one of the main things that we see at level 2 is when the coaches run the day 2 workout for all the participants, one of the top pieces of feedback from every single participant in those is like, we never stopped moving in this class, which is not a strength plus a Metcon, right? So if you're consistently and just strategically coaching the entire time the class is happening, like from the second you break from the whiteboard, people are going to be engaged, right? So going back to like, hey, they got indifferent. Well, they're indifferent because you're wasting time. You're talking too long. These transitions are horribly executed inside of the class. I'm like, that's not a good class.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to keep them engaged. And again, it's that pairing. But every once in a while, I'm like, yeah, if you never do strength with Metcon, that by definition is also not variance.
Right. It wasn't about getting into that. The point was simply about put more work into your service. It can be way better than you think it. If you're like, no, our service is good, you're screwed. You're cutting yourself off and your members off at the knees because you can always make it better. Always try to make it better. Go drop into boxes that do amazing things. Go try different things. Go seek this out. Get help, but make the service better. And that means it's on time. There's a plan. It's intentional, and you're creating a fun experience. People want to have their name used. Everyone should be getting a coaching moment or 3 in every single session. No one should walk out of there without having been coached and been like, I learned something and got better today. I was challenged today. By you being here, this was a better class for me than I could have even dreamed up.
I also don't think that running a better class is all about, actually I think most of it's probably not, is all about your technical expertise.
It's really not.
Dude, some of it is just like, hey, all of this should have been staged beforehand. Like when every single person walks in the door, greet everybody by name. They're like, hey, Marcus, what's up, Jay? How you guys doing? Like, and I don't mean like, hey, man, what's going on? I mean like, make it known to the room that person just walked in. Be like, hey, Marcus, what's up, dude? Like make it a big deal that they're there. Like it's like cheers, dude. Everybody knows your name. Like make them feel like every time they walk in the door, they're gonna get greeted, and it's a big deal that they're there, that everybody's happy. Like you do a good job of this, and it's just you're a high caliber. It's like there's a lot to be gained by playing around with the playlist, man. Like different style of music at different parts of the class is a thing.
It's an art. It's
an
a whole
art,
thing,
right? It's for sure an art.
It's a doctrine.
And I will say this to what you just said. An easy way to get this part right, the welcoming piece, if you were hosting a party at your house and you invited a bunch of people over, when that person showed up, would you be like, oh, hey, what's up, Jay? That Jay'd be like, what the hell did you call me for? Like,
Yeah, why am I here?
Right. But if I'm like, yeah, what's up, buddy? And I'm stoked, then you're like, yeah, I'm here. Like, let's go. Like, this is going to be a thing now.
It's going to be a great
You should
hour.
feel it like every hour I'm resetting. I'm the host of the party. And so I want to go and make everyone feel like, yes, you're here. It's better that you're here. And we're going to have a moment or two or three. And that's the goal. Make it a thing.
You know who does this really well, and I experienced it at both of the gyms that I went to when I was there, is Luvo 1 and 3. Chaffee. Dude, you get greeted at the door. I mean, like, with the number of people that they run through those gyms and the level of personal connection that they have there is insane. Like, they do this really, really well.
And for those who think that that's just an innate skill that someone either has or doesn't have, you're wrong. When I worked at the Ritz-Carlton, I learned the system behind this, because you can plug people in. And yes, some people are more naturally gifted at it than others. But we would have lists with names and pictures. You have the same thing. It's your attendance roster.
On your
Get people to register and be
right.
like, who's coming? Who's supposed to be here? And then be ready and be like, awesome. Like, I'm getting my head in the game. Like, oh, I haven't seen her in a few days. Or, oh, this is her first time back since vacation. Think about, like, what are you going to do? Take 1 minute to look at it and get yourself in the game. Now you know who's coming, and you can prepare and practice and be intentional and develop the muscle.
It's Mitch, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was talking to Mitch beforehand, and he said that's where they're starting to they make all the members put a profile pic in their profile, because they use push press here, I think. And that way they're looking at it. This is where they're like, hey, names. Mm-hmm. Like, they have, I think he said they have like 25 people. They're not even open yet, right? But like 25 people. They got a bunch of people on trials or whatever. Like, we put them in there, and it's a huge thing for them. It's just like names. Use names.
What's everyone's favorite word?
Their name.
Their name.
Yeah.
On that note, shout out to Proven for hosting us for this series. It's been great. We hope you've enjoyed it. We've went from leads to sales to integration to retention, turning leads into lifers. If you've enjoyed this, if you want to learn more, if you want to bring this back to your affiliate, check out Affiliate U over at besthouroftheirday.com.
Yeah, buddy.
Thanks for checking out this episode of the Best Hour of Their Day podcast. We appreciate you listening and choosing to have us help you in your passion for coaching and affiliate ownership. You can find more episodes just like this on all podcast platforms. If you're interested in learning more, you can reach out to us on any social media platforms, or you can visit www.besthouroftheirday.com to book a call. If you found this episode helpful for you, please share it so that we can help other coaches and affiliate owners to help build a bigger and stronger CrossFit community. Thanks for listening.